The next morning, Archie was enjoying a cup of tea in the so-called breakfast room, which did not contain any breakfast, despite Mrs. McPuddle's assurances that she would manage to feed them for a fortnight, thinking about how Earls Trip was finally underway, when Clementine marched in. Gone was the whispering girl of last night. She had been replaced by a tall, assured, wild-haired woman who walked and spoke with confidence. And, judging by the mud on her boots and the hem of her dress, she had already been outside, though it was not yet 7:30. That part was familiar too, and, more than anything else, an indication that she had not been elementally harmed by the events of yesterday. "There are a few things we need to discuss," she said, sinking into a chair next to Archie before he could organize his limbs to stand in acknowledgement of her arrival. "First, I do not swoon." "And good morning to you too," he remarked, trying not to be too obvious about letting his gaze roam her person, searching for any signs of lingering damage. She was wearing a slate-blue day dress, which, aside from the mud, was unremarkable. Her mahogany hair had been braided and the braids pinned up, but the whole thing was sloppily done. Hanks of hair hung loose, and the still pinned-up part was listing off to one side. Her cheeks were pink, and her brown copper eyes bright. She had a smattering of freckles across her cheeks, and slightly beaky nose. This was all familiar. The Clementine of his memory had often looked like this, yet somehow, today, all these usual characteristics added up to something different. He tried to think how long exactly it had been since he'd seen the Morgans. He'd attended Mrs. Morgan's funeral, of course, but the sisters had been veiled and surrounded by well-wishers. Beyond that, it had very likely been 4, perhaps 5 years. He did some arithmetic. He was 27, which would make Clementine 24. Suppose she had been 19 the last time he saw her. How could the difference between 19 and 24 be so great? Yet it was. She was different. Or perhaps, he thought with unease, she was the same, and he was different. "I'm not the sort of woman who swoons when confronted with unpleasantness," she declared. "I don't faint my way out of trying situations." "I should think not. You're the sort of woman who shoots your way out of them." Her posture softened. "I am sorry about that. How is your shoulder?"